But then the second macronutrients are the ones to focus on. While we are controlling carbohydrates, we want to focus more on prioritizing protein and not being afraid of dietary fat. And with regards to protein, I'll elaborate just briefly. We need to make sure we aren't being seduced by this current trend of avoiding animal protein. We will hear from so many sources that animal protein is bad and ought to be avoided. I would just ask anyone to question that conclusion. Humans are evolved or created to eat meat and protein from animal sources, be it dairy or meat or eggs. Those are the most biologically accessible proteins in the entire planet. And those are the ones we should eat. We absorb them better, and they have a better profile of amino acids to help the body retain muscle mass and bone mass. Interestingly, in nature, every one of those animal proteins that are the best for humans to eat come with fat, and that's how we should eat it. When we eat fat with the protein, we digest the protein better. And moreover, when they are consumed together, they are more anabolic. Fat and protein will build muscle better than just protein alone. So that's how fellas should eat. We need to keep our muscle, we need to challenge our muscles, and we need to nourish the muscles accordingly with making sure we're eating adequate and high quality protein and the fat that comes with it naturally. Let's not try to trim it off or skim it off, but eat it and enjoy it. I think the key for men to age is to not go into a caloric restriction, because the further someone is reducing calories, the harder it's going to be to keep any kind of mass, including lean mass. And for everyone to age well, and I would say especially men, and maybe especially just because I have such a kind of traditional view of men needing to be strong and capable for their families and their communities, make sure you're eating a lot of good protein and fat, and not skimming that off, and you're really leaning into it, a lot of protein and fat, and lifting weights or doing some other kind of resistance training so that the muscle is being worked to exhaustion. I feel very, very strongly about that. And there are all kinds of ways to do that, ranging from the kind of complicated strategies of you're in the gym in the squat rack or with dumbbells, or you are out on a pull-up bar and you're just doing a series of pull-ups and push-ups, which is actually how I primarily do my workouts, and then different types of workouts for my legs. But whatever it may be, my piece of advice is to be mindful of the time under tension. And I don't mean to spend too much time talking about exercise and weightlifting, because that's not my forte as a scientist, but it is my forte as just a fellow who studied it and who's practiced and experimented. But the important variable I would submit is time under tension. That if you guys, if you're lifting weights and you find it sometimes difficult to move the weight, then go to a lighter weight and increase the angle. Where if you're doing chest work, for example, get to the point where the chest is maximally stretched, and then hold that tension. I think it's really, really beneficial to have workouts that are splitting between dynamic movements, just a bench press or a push-up's an easy example, and then static, where you're getting to the point of maximum stretch with those muscles and then holding it there until you can't hold it, maybe for a minute or so. But all of it is just reflective of this theme of maximizing the time under tension. So more important than how many repetitions you're doing, how many times you're doing the exercise, is how long were the muscles being worked and exhausted. But if you can, if we can be pushing our muscles to exhaustion, it's a good way for we fellas to just know that we're going to be growing our muscles, or as we get into older age, we're going to be keeping them as long as possible, because it's muscle mass that is one of the greatest predictors of mortality, and inversely so. In other words, the more muscle a guy has, the longer and better, and a gal, the longer and better he's going to live. The less muscle he has, the shorter and more miserable his life is going to be. He's going to be frail, weak, and easy to kill, even if it's just an accident or a fall.